Hey. Hey.
Right now on the National Weather Desk, after the storm. Right now on the National Weather Desk, after the storms, California cleans up, surveying the damage as the atmospheric river finally stops.
You can also see, they said 100 feet of sand width was gone and wiped out into the ocean.
The Pacific Northwest comes face to face with a landslide threat.
The threat of slides during this time is extremely high.
While folks in Utah look for new places to put all that snow.
You can't see where you're driving or when you're walking.
We'll show you the train that was derailed by avalanche debris and take you to Florida for this morning's launch of the latest SpaceX rocket.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. We are tracking two major weather threats this morning from Colorado to the plains. Heavy snow is on the way, and in the southeast, there's another severe storm threat. Meteorologist Brian Vandergraff is here with the information that you need to know.
All right, well, very good morning. As the system works its way across the nation, it's basically a system going from west to east. We've got snow through the upper Midwest and the severe threat down through portions of the south. Let's first talk about that snow potential. Winter storm warnings, Denver all the way through South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, right on up into Minnesota, and they could be seeing upwards of a foot or more of snow with winter weather advisories along the periphery there. And then down through the deep south, we're under a slight risk, a level 2 risk, damaging winds, large hail. Tornado threat is rather low, but from Shreveport to Little Rock, Memphis to Jackson, Mississippi, we'll be keeping a close eye on the potential for some strong winds and potentially also some hail. Angela?
All right, thanks, Brian. If those storms do develop down south, wind shear certainly will be a factor. Meteorologist Ryan Mirando is in Macon, Georgia, with an explanation.
Wind shear in the atmosphere is when winds will be changing speed and direction the farther in the atmosphere you go. So at the low end of the clouds, we've got weaker winds at the bottom of them, but at the top, the winds are much stronger. This creates like a pinwheel or windmill effect in the atmosphere that creates horizontal rotation in the atmosphere. Now, this isn't too dangerous for itself. However, when we combine this with the updrafts of a thunderstorm, that's when this looks to become more familiar. We flip this on the vertical axis, and this is how we could get a tornado to be forming that'll be coming down from the bottom of the cloud and onto the ground. That's when we could be seeing the dangerous conditions of a tornado, winds upwards of 100 miles per hour and damaging anything in its path.
And California is cleaning up after several severe winter storms really slammed that state. Officials say cleanup could take months in Pismo Beach north of Santa Barbara. The storms have caused a tremendous amount of beach erosion. Officials say dunes on the beach lost 2 to 5 feet of elevation and about 100 feet of sand width into the ocean. Myra Franco has more.
High storm surges swallowed up a good portion of Pismo Beach and Oceano Dunes. State Parks Acting District Superintendent Ronnie Glick showed us around, pointing out notable differences the next time you head to the beach and the Oceano Dunes.
But we actually have debris that the surf cast up onto the beach under the swings where kids would normally be swinging.
The swings and playground buried, along with the area where kids would build sandcastles due to the falling cliffs eating away the popular destination.
It's an amazing and tremendous force that happened here.
Same goes just 8 minutes away at Oceano Dunes. Day use and overnight camping has been closed because the Grande Creek is flowing like never before. Cars can't cross over the creek to get to their destination.
So there definitely will be changed conditions. There may be some steep drop-offs that people aren't used to. But as important, it's where people decide to camp, because with these high tides and high storms that have been coming in, a lot of times, people are so close that they get inundated.
Glick says the dunes are very resilient and can withstand storm surges like the ones we saw. As for the concerns of Pismo Beach having the potential to wash away with future storms,
don't worry, the beach will be back, and it'll be back in full force.
And what are the chances that those torrents of California rain triggered a muddy landslide that damaged an iconic entertainer's house? Well, that's what happened to Johnny Mathis. A hillside gave way in front of the 87-year-old singer's home in the Hollywood Hills, crushing his Jag, damaging power lines, and exposing pipes and other infrastructure. Unfortunately, the house has been damaged before in the past. Back in 2015, a fire destroyed the mansion, and it was rebuilt. Now to Utah, where heavy snow is helping to make up ground against the drought. The biggest issue right now, where to put all of that snow. Ariel Harrison has more from the mountains east of Salt Lake City.
We moved here 2 years ago. We've been waiting for some great snow.
Hannah Jostron says her family's dreamed about a Utah winter like this since getting here, but admits it seems like they're running out of places to put the snow.
All over the place. You can't see where you're driving or when you're walking.
Down the street, her neighbor Larry,
I keep throwing it on a higher pile,
is also hard at work shoveling snow.
I like to keep the driveway clean and so the UPS guy doesn't fall on his head.
While both are very grateful the snowpack will fill reservoirs, right now the massive piles make it tough to see other vehicles and pedestrians. But a good winter like this doesn't come often. And despite the struggles, the mountain community say they'd welcome more.
Hopefully it does a little bit for the Great Salt Lake, but we have a long way to go.
And now to the Pacific Northwest, where heavy rains have battered western Washington. All that water is causing rivers to rise, increasing the threat of a landslide. Theron Zahn shows us the situation just outside of Seattle.
We're in downtown Falls City, and folks around here know that when the rain comes down and that snow level goes up, they've got to keep an eye on the Snoqualmie River here. You can see that it is quickly filled up over the last 24 hours. While serious flooding is not expected for now, there are other dangers the heavy rain is bringing. Officials in King and Snohomish County are warning residents of landslide dangers as that rain is falling. One of the biggest areas of concern is along Highway 2, where the Bolt Creek wildfire raged last year. In the last few weeks, WashDOT has taken several dump truck loads of debris from one of the culverts near the fire zone. There are other areas of concern as well.
We have historic places like out by Monroe, Sultan area. There was a slide area off of Kellogg Loop Road.
The threat of slides during this time, the first few months of the year, is extremely high.
If you live near a steep slope or somewhere a slide has happened in the past, you're going to want to keep an eye out for any kind of ground movement. The soil will stay saturated for a while, even after the rain stops. And again, you can see the Snoqualmie River here just below flood stage, certainly filled to a capacity today as that rain continues to run off the Cascades. Thankfully, no major flooding is expected, at least on this river. We're going to continue to watch the forecast for you.
And it's a sight folks who live in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area will not forget anytime soon. In 2019, the Keystone Dam churned through more than twice as much water per second as Niagara Falls, and homes downstream from the Keystone Dam sank into brown water. Now that city wants to buy those damaged homes. Tyler Butler is in Tulsa with that story.
Joe Kralichek is on the team spearheading a voluntary buyout program with an ambitious goal: buy dozens of homeowners out from their damaged floodplain properties and safeguard the future.
Our plan is, as part of a mitigation plan, to purchase those properties and then demolish them, revert them back to green space, and then put an easement on them to ensure that nothing can ever be built within that floodplain again.
Years of work has brought in nearly $15 million of federal disaster relief, which should buy 60 to 65 properties. But 172 property owners have expressed interest. What comes next is on a case-by-case basis. Larger reclaimed areas could perhaps become a park, smaller areas reclaimed by nature. In the end, fewer people will know that pain of watching their home flood when the Arkansas next breaks its banks.
And shortly after sunrise this morning, SpaceX launched its latest rocket into orbit. Goes at 7:24 this morning, the 230-foot Falcon 9 left the launch pad, delivering the latest GPS rocket into space. The booster then landed on a drone ship a few hundred miles east of Charleston, South Carolina, in the Atlantic Ocean. By the way, the GPS rocket is nicknamed Amelia Earhart, a shout out to the aviation pioneer. And take a look at this. Alaska Railroad says an avalanche derailed a freight train about 40 miles south of Anchorage on Tuesday. 2 cars went off the tracks and another partially derailed. Officials said the 2 crew members on the train were able to get out and were not hurt. A railroad spokesperson said the incident is a reminder of the risk of wintertime travel in Alaska. Now that is true. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, did you know there are folks who fly airplanes into atmospheric rivers? We'll speak with one of the pilots. We'll be right back.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We have some pretty mild temperatures in the Northeast today. Most areas will top out in the 40s. Things start to change going into Thursday. Notice some rain breaking out into New York, parts of New Jersey, southern New England as well. A little storm system is going to form, a little second area of low pressure right there. That's going to keep some cold air in northern New England where they're expecting some snow. Notice it's primarily rain there in southern New England. The sun should make an appearance on Saturday and temps will cool off a bit with highs in the 30s.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Up and down the 95 corridor, nice mild day coming after a comfortable start, at least for January standards. By about 2:30, 3 o'clock, well into the 50s, even some 60s over Virginia. And it looks like some in-and-out sunshine, too, ahead of our next weather maker out to the west that could bring some more widespread rain toward us as we head into the day on Thursday for both the morning and afternoon commute there. Enjoy the nice weather for now. That's a scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for today. We're seeing highs in the upper 60s from Nashville, Raleigh. Looking at Birmingham, 70 degrees, Atlanta, 66, 78 in Tampa, 79 West Palm, Jacksonville, 78 degrees. Few clouds and spotty showers over parts of the southeast, but it looks like mainly dry conditions down in Florida as they're seeing temperatures warming on the back edge of high pressure. But it looks like definitely a little front scooting through, giving us a little bit of a scattered clouds and showers over Atlanta, over towards Charleston.
Now let's check to see the weather in cities across the country today. Let's start with a look at the Missouri state capitol in Jefferson City, where rain is in the forecast and highs will be in the mid-40s. And a look here at the nation's capital, where it's a mix of sunshine and clouds, and the highs today are in the mid-50s. Heading north to Mackinac Bridge in Mackinac City, Michigan, where skies are mostly cloudy and temperatures will only get into their low 30s for highs today. We'll end things off with a look here. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where skies are cloudy and highs are in the mid-60s. Did you know that the same aircraft used by hurricane hunters are now being used in the same capacity to study atmospheric rivers? Emily Gracie recently spoke to Anna Wilson at the Scripps Institute in California about how long they've been flying into atmospheric rivers and how it differs from the hurricane missions.
Really, it started as a research program. So at first we would only be able to do a couple of flights per year. You know, in the first couple of years of Air Recon, I think in 2016, there were maybe 3 flights, and that kept increasing. But as we found really specific improvements in the forecast through using these aircraft, in 2019, after that season, we got put into the National Winter Season Operations Plan. And so that then made the mission operational and enabled us to do a lot more flights into atmospheric river storms.
So take me through what a flight is like and how it differs from hurricane hunters' reconnaissance.
So one big difference is that the hurricane hunters, when they're flying into a hurricane, are flying at much lower altitudes, usually about 10,000 or so feet. And then when we're in atmospheric rivers, what we want to do is get a complete profile of the AR. And so they're flying much higher at like 26,000 or even 30,000 feet. The G4 aircraft is flying even higher than that, usually about 41 or 42,000 feet. The other thing, of course, is that hurricanes and atmospheric rivers are structurally very, very different. Yes, they both have lots of water and lots of wind, but that kind of ends their similarities. The flight track patterns which they fly are quite different from what they fly in hurricanes.
What have been some kind of surprising things that you've learned over the past couple of years with this sort of research?
Some of the things that we've learned include lots of really interesting details about exactly how strong the atmospheric river can get. That fact that there's kind of like not a symmetry on both sides of the AR, but there's sort of differences depending on if you're on the cold side or the warm side. And so that's been really exciting just to learn more about the structure. There was also a paper that came out a few years ago that used dropsound information to basically understand a cross-section of what the atmospheric river looks like. And so, for example, that 75% of the moisture in an atmospheric river is in the lowest 3 kilometers and things like that, just so we can assess, are the models representing these properly? But it's really exciting, all the sorts of research and its science advances that dropsounds can enable.
And head over to our YouTube channel to see a longer version of this interview. Anna talks about the future of classifying atmospheric rivers and if they will ever have names like hurricanes do right now. Just search the National Weather Desk and remember to hit the subscribe button. You can also just scan the QR code on the bottom left of your screen. Now, one reason we are seeing so much happening with all of these atmospheric rivers is because the climate is changing, and knowing how to prepare for different weather events is really very important. There's a new tool that helps with that called the Climate Risk and Resilience Portal, or CLIMR. Michigan meteorologist Heather Bricka has a closer look at the new technology from Traverse City.
Our hope is that community leaders will use this data to look at changes over time. And it actually allows them to see 3 decades out changes in annual rainfall, changes in temperature, changes in drought conditions and wind.
AT&T, FEMA, and the Department of Energy's Argonne National Laboratory came together to make this project happen. The tool is available for everyone to help make educated climate decisions now.
Climate's already changing, right? We're already experiencing the impacts of climate change. And I think, people have much more firsthand experience with natural disasters and hazards that are different today than it was 10, 20 years ago.
It's not always easy to look far into the future, but thanks to several scientists working together, it's an educated prediction.
there is a ton of science behind all the data and the information in the tool. And one of the things that we really stress is transparency of the science that we use to create all of these projections.
What we're hoping is that we can use what we have learned from applying it internally and help to share those insights with communities and take steps to elevate critical equipment, to take steps to make sure, for instance, evacuation routes for a particular city are, avoiding areas that we're seeing a lot of flooding.
The tool can really do a lot of that, give information about impacts in comparison to, what we all think of as normal back, 10, 20, 30 years ago, but also compare that against what we'll experience at the middle of the century and also at the end of the century.
These are projections for what the future climate impacts could look like, but it's a good resource so you can be prepared for what will happen in your lifetime.
And warmer temperatures does not mean we won't see freezing temperatures, and navigating the roads during cold, snowy, or icy conditions is a big concern during the colder months. Let's go to Asheville, North Carolina, where meteorologist Karen Wynn talks to an auto expert about ways to keep your car winter ready.
Karen, one of the most important things is checking the health of your tires.
Lupo says having good tires with deep tread is essential, but you need more than a gauge or a penny to make that assessment. The service manager recommends you turn your tires where you can see both sides.
And you can see this tread right here is much less pronounced than that same identical tread on the outside of the tire.
Lupo says you should also get your battery tested since cold air puts much more of a strain on it.
Why is it important to get that battery tested even when it seems like your car's running well?
One of the drawbacks to some of the newer technology is that they're more like light switches now, where you won't get any indication and then you'll come out with a car full of groceries and it will not start.
Wipers need to be in good shape.
Make sure that the rubber's nice and pliable. Resist the temptation to smack your wipers against the windshield to clear them. It will cost you a windshield.
According to AAA's winter driving tips, drivers need to take it slow and increase following distance. Also avoid stopping while going uphill. Lupo says you also need to have an emergency kit in your vehicle in case you get stuck.
Lupo says for the newer vehicles, it's especially important to make sure you have the right kind of fluids in your car or truck. If you have any questions, you're encouraged to reach out to your dealer or your mechanic.
And as we head into the break, we take you to the skies over Ovando, Montana.
Well, a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Taking a look at your weather story today. A lot of snow here across the plains and then rain to the south. This entire system will be moving its way to the east as we go through the day and into tomorrow. So that snow shifts more up towards Wisconsin and into northern Michigan for tomorrow, with rain showers down across the Ohio Valley. Even a few storms possible as we continue on into your Friday. Chilly for a lot of us.
Good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. A look at our forecast today across the region and keeping an eye on East Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, where we do have a risk for a few strong to severe storms with wind, hail, maybe an isolated tornado risk in here as well through the afternoon. Behind the front, a lot of sunshine, gusty breezes, highs in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So it's not a push of cold air behind this front. And then really a good looking day on Thursday with a good amount of sunshine, highs 50s, 60s to the 70s.
Well, hi there and a good Wednesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Midwinter, mid-January here in the west, and it looks and feels like it up in the Intermountain West with just 20s for highs today in Jackson Hole and freezing as we head into this afternoon in Missoula. Another big disturbance, but next weather maker pushing into the Pacific Northwest, rain all the way down to the Bay Area and up north to Seattle and Bellingham. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Central New York gets a dose of freezing rain Tuesday ahead of some nighttime iciness. They're expecting snow or a wintry mix Thursday and Friday. And how about these dog days of winter? Take in the sunshiny skies in Charleston, South Carolina from Tuesday. Temperatures are expected in the 60s and 70s over the next few days. That's more than their normal highs this time of year.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
And check this out. Some of the icicles coming off this building, as you can see there, grew diagonally. This happens when winds are strong, generally 40 miles per hour or stronger. These strong winds blow the water droplets that are dripping down the icicle to one side where they refreeze. This happens over and over again until the icicle appears to be growing to one side rather than straight down, making the icicle take on a diagonal direction instead of a vertical one. We'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk or scan the QR code on the bottom left of your screen, and we will be right back. And thank you for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we're going to take a look at the changing patterns of the jet stream. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Wednesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.